then we are going to make some beef stroganoff. So let's start by getting our sourdough prepped up here. This is just my classic loaf, and we're going to flip it out onto our parchment paper. There we go. And we're going to give it a nice little score. Let me get my little lame out of here. Pull it out. I'm going to just kind of scrape a little bit of that excess flour off so that I can kind of rub it around, which makes the design pop a little bit more. There we go. There we go. And then I think I might do something a little different. It's not that much different. I'm going to do a score. Oh, let me actually hold my blade. There we go. I'm going to do an expansion score over here. And then I'm going to do one on this side as well. And then we're going to do the wheat leaf in the middle. See here? We'll see how that goes. Not much different. A little different. One extra score. Okay, let's put this in our Dutch oven. It's nice and toasty. Had it preheating at 500. And my sourdough is cold. I had it cold proofing since I shaped it up last night before I went to bed. So it's been in there for a good like 22 hours or so. 500 degrees for 20 minutes with the lid on. Then we will take the lid off and bake for 20 minutes at 450. Put that in there. And then I'll set my timer. Because if I don't, then I will forget about it. Luckily, the first part, if you go over, not so much of an issue. Second part, you can burn things more. Let's get our noodles dropped in here for our beef stroganoff. So I was debating about whether I should make my own, and just we were honestly at the field and soccer and on there. So I went through my pantry and I found 2 bags. So we're gonna start cooking these, and then in a few minutes we'll add these in. And it's good because they're like half bags. And anytime I can use up something on there. But if I were gonna make a pasta, I would actually probably make a parpendel, which is this, or an egg noodle where I just do the thick cut and hand cut them. But again, we're going to use what we have. So we've got a little bit of the kind of, I call them corkscrew, and then some parpendel for it. Let me grab my pasta and give this a little stir. And then like a few minutes, just because these take a little bit longer than those, then we'll drop those in there. And that way they can finish at the same time. Let's get our beef ready to kind of sear up here. So here I have a bunch of flank steak from, it's about, I want to say this is about 3 pounds of flank steak. And we're going to slice it up into little strips, and then we'll kind of sear them off in our pan. I'm actually going to cut them a little bit smaller so we more have kind of like chunks with it for our little dinner tonight. From beef stroganoff, and then we'll season them, and then we'll sear them off. We'll remove all of our meat, and then we'll saute up some garlic and onions and mushrooms, and then we'll make the base of our stroganoff. I'm using some Worcestershire, sour cream, some Dijon mustard, a little bit of beef bouillon, and some pasta water, black pepper and salt. It's a really, really simple dish, but it is delicious. I feel like we ate a lot of hamburger helper beef stroganoff when I was a kid, because that's what like some of my older siblings would cook. So they would be in charge for dinner night, and I always felt like my oldest sister, she did like a great job. She did like homemade pizzas or taco night or delicious one. My older brothers, they were like hamburger helper. Is it going to be beef stroganoff or a cheesy cheeseburger? But we had a lot of those as well. And rice-a-roni. Those were good old 90s staples for it. I much preferred my older sister's cooking on there. But I love a good beef stroganoff. I still remember the one time I was probably like 6, 7, maybe 8 at the time. And my uncle had made homemade beef stroganoff, and I was thinking it was going to be the delicious box of, hamburger helper one. And I looked at it and I'm like, that doesn't look right. And I refused to eat it. And I'm sure it was probably the most delicious beef stroganoff. And I missed out because I was a kid and difficult. Much how Evie is. Although, well, I will say she's my pickiest eater out of it, but she does give everything a try. It's just trying to make sure she doesn't come in with an opinion first, because if she has an opinion, there's no way to change it. We're getting these guys cubed up, and then we'll start searing them off. I'm going to season them really simple, a little bit of onion powder, garlic, salt, and black pepper. Again, it's just a very, very simple meal, but so delicious. It's a hearty one. And it's just kind of what I was feeling like. I was like, even though it's 100 degrees out there, I could really use a nice big bowl of beef stroganoff with our homemade sourdough bread. And then I was like, our strawberry rhubarb jam is nice and chilled. So I'm like, I think I'm going to have some strawberry rhubarb jam on my sourdough tonight because it was so, so good. Teddy was like licking the spoon after I like put them into the jars. He was licking the spoon, and I put actually a little bit in his bowl because I told you, Teddy is my great lover of jam. He just loves it. And it was really cute. He almost looked kind of like a puppy dog because he had a little bowl and he was like, his whole face was in it. Okay. I'm gonna drop my next set of noodles in. So I'm gonna put this down. This is my clean hand because it only touches the knife blade. So that's the nice thing about using it one. I'm gonna drop these in here. Again, these are my Perpendel. I'm gonna give them, they're in little nests. They don't take quite as long to cook as the other ones, but I want to get them in here. So we'll have kind of a crazy medley here. But that's sometimes my kids love those pasta when I'm like, oh, I've got a bunch of like half or a third bags of pasta and I throw it all together. They seem to really love that. And it was either these noodles or I had alphabet noodles or dinosaur noodles in there for the little boys. And I was like, yeah, maybe not. Although I don't know, it could be very educational with the letters. I was thinking once it gets cold, I'll make alphabet soup. And then I'm going to have to teach my kids the song that, we all grew up listening to, like Shirley Temple on there. I would sing it, but then you guys would all leave. I'm not a very good singer. But I do remember that. I always used, so there's like a picture at my parents' house of my grandmother. Um, and when she was little, and she looked a lot like Shirley Temple. She had like blonde little ringlet curls, blue eyes, are the same little button nose that everybody in our family has. And I was like sitting there, I was like, you were a pretty cute kid.
You got a question. Does the cameraman eat this meal?
He eats the beef out of it and he eats the sourdough. The cameraman, unless it's my homemade pasta, he does not like pasta. I know. Crazy. I don't know what's wrong with him. I've stopped asking that question many years ago. Um, but he'll eat the meat. He'll like the meat. He'll eat the sourdough. So it's his loss, not mine. But I stopped cooking. I told myself when we had kids that I wasn't going to be a short order cook and that I was going to make, a family meal, and that's what we eat. But I always make sure we have fresh fruit so that you can always supplement with that, and that there is something in the meal that everyone likes. So pretty much everybody likes the beef, or the kids, they like the noodles, and then everyone except Torrin likes the sourdough bread. Although I really think he actually does like it. He just won't give us the satisfaction of saying it on there because he always says he likes the Cheesecake Factory, the bread from there. And I'm like, dude, that's sourdough bread. And he goes, no, it's not good. I'm like, it is. That is the white bread there is sourdough. And he's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, it is. I'm going to start heating up my oil. And then we will saute this off. This is a pretty big pan. This is my 6-quart saute pan from All-Clad. So I need a good amount of olive oil to kind of coat the bottom just because it's so large. Smaller pan, you can use less. Now, I'm going to have to do this in stages because, again, this is a good amount of meat, but let's get it seasoned. We're going to use a little bit of Worcestershire sauce on the meat, but we'll also be putting it in our sauce. So this just helps break down the fat, makes it nice and tender and juicy. And then we're going to do some garlic salt. Let's see if I'm going to, this is like the laugh. I have like so little left in this. It's just like, it is just the parsley now. We're going to use it all up. There we go. Finally, I was like, I'm not going to put it back in my thing. Worcestershire, let's do our garlic or onion powder. Nice sprinkle over. And then black pepper. And that is all we're using. Really simple, but delicious. But we want to make sure the little bites are all seasoned up as well. And then I'm going to give this a good toss.
How were the cupcakes?
They were delicious. I think we have a few left over here. So they kind of ate through all of it with the jam on there. All of the, actually, I should have just made them all with the strawberry rhubarb jam in it, because they all ended up eating those on there. But I said, don't eat them all, because I want to save them to put in their Kaiser's lunch tomorrow. But now I have to go, now that I said that, I have to go search for my little cupcake holders. I have like little containers that hold a little cupcake. It looks like a cupcake. So I have to go find them on there. But they are delicious. A lot of kids ate the frosting, but I saved a couple of, I baked up the rest of the batter to make some cake pops. And I told them, I was like, you guys can't just eat all the frosting. But they were really, really good. So, and Evie was very, very happy. Although she's been bugging me, she goes, you haven't posted my video of a race. And I told her, I said, I will post your video of your race. She's very, very proud. Apparently, she's been telling everybody how she did at her race. She was like telling her soccer coach today. So I told her I would definitely do that. Let's get these. I definitely feel like they need a little bit more time on here. Okay. Once it's kind of nice and residual heat, we're going to drop it in. Make sure your pan is nice and hot before you put any of your meat in there, because cool pan, warm pan will cause all the juices to come out of your meat and it won't sear it off. So make sure it's nice and hot. Let's see if I can drop this little teeny piece in. So I can see it sizzling pretty nicely, so we should be good. Okay. I'm going to start putting in my flank steak here. We're going to sear it off kind of on both sides until it's kind of like I want it to be really tender, so like a medium rare, which means we'll sear it off on one side, flip it over, and sear it for about 30 seconds to a minute on the other side. And then I'm going to remove all of my beef from the pan. We'll do our next batch in, and then we'll throw it in at the very end, because we don't want it to overcook. If you keep it in there, it's just going to continue to overcook, and then your meat will be tough at the end. There we go. So I'm trying to get about half of my flank steak in here, and then we'll get the other half on the second batch. But it's going to be an extra meaty one today. And then we're going to, once we remove all the meat, then we will cook up some onions, mushrooms, and garlic in the base of this, and then we will finish off our sauce. Okay. I think I've got enough in this first round here. Make sure I've got it as evenly over, and then I've got it searing off. I'm going to about a 7. Check a noodle here. Let's grab this guy. About 1 more minute. We're at almost an al dente. Put these guys to the side. Let me check. Good. Over here. On there. Okay. Let's get these guys, and then I need to get a little bowl to put the meat in. I don't know why, but ever since I decided I was going to make this today, I've been really, really craving it. It's one of those just comfort dishes that I ate a lot as a kid. Not always the most exquisite form of it, but it's just like one of those like comfort foods that are so yummy on there. Because growing up, like eating out was a treat that we really only did eating out when it was one of my siblings' birthday. It was something my stepdad always treated the whole family to, was a birthday dinner to whatever restaurant we wanted to go to. And fast food was a rarity because, again, we were a large family and, you know, it was a special thing to get fast food or whatnot. Now I feel like people eat out all the time and it's not so special. We're going to flip over some of these that have started to kind of like get a little bit of a brown edges up over it. Beautiful. And we'll sear it off. You don't want to make sure you overcook your meat because overcooking your meat will cause it to be more tough. When you remove it from your pan, it is going to continue to cook. So once we flip all of these over, it will be about ready to remove the first ones off, and then we can get the second one in. And that's why it's important to make sure your pan is nice and hot when we sear these off. Also, don't worry about getting little meat drippings or anything stuck to the bottom of your pan, because when we go to deglaze it with some beef bouillon and pasta water, that is going to give us some great flavor. There we go. It smells really delicious. And I always just like the simplicity of just garlic, salt, black pepper, some onion powder. Just makes it so yummy. Okay. Get this over. I'm going to let this side cook a little bit more. And again, my thing is a little bit bigger than that, the whole pan. So I have to move it around to make it cook more evenly. I'm going to grab some of my pasta water before we drain it because I'm going to mix that with my beef bouillon to be the base of it. I need about 2 cups because, again, I'm making, which would probably be double the average amount of beef stroganoff because we are a big family. We're feeding, 9. I essentially make for our family of 7 plus extra for my parents. So I want to make sure I have enough. And then we'll strain this. We're just about there. Okay, let me get these noodles strained, and then we'll take our beef off for our first round. Get these. There we go. Always have a couple. And then no need to put butter or anything on them. When we put them in our final sauce, they will break apart. So they might stick together, but we want them to cling to the sauce. Let's get our first round of our beef. Again, I want them to be nice and pink inside so that they're nice medium rare. And also remember, they will continue to cook in this bowl at a slower rate, but they will. So stop them a little bit before you're at what your perfect cooking level is, because then they'll get to it. I don't need to put them next to you. You can wait for dinner. They're very, very hot, so don't eat them yet. Let them cool. I warn him. Does he listen? No. But there's that's our flank steak that we seasoned with Worcestershire, garlic, salt, black pepper, and onion powder. And then we're searing them off in our pan with some olive oil. Then we will use the meat drippings in there to cook our onions, garlic, and our mushrooms. And then we will add in some beef bouillon with our pasta water, sour cream, Dijon mustard, Worcestershire sauce, a little bit more garlic, salt, and black pepper to kind of season this guy up. And it's a pretty easy dinner to make. And delicious. I like to say it's a one-pot meal, but you have to technically cook the pasta in a second pot. So not quite a one-pot meal. But you can also serve this up with rice. And I also think it would be delicious with like mashed potatoes or even like a roasted potatoes, or stuff it in a baked potato. I think that would be glorious because it would have almost like a gravy thing, just a big baked potato with this all inside it. I think it would be delicious. I feel like they need to bring back more bougie baked potatoes. They're still hot. Patience is a virtue that no one in my family possesses. Okay, we got our noodles here. I'm going to bring my starchy water over here. We can add our beef bouillon to it. That way it can dissolve. And then in just a second, we'll be able to take our sourdough, take it out of the oven, take the lid off, and let it cook for the second part. But let's get these guys open. Sometimes they're got it really hard. Now I'm going to use a big heaping spoonful because this is what's going to give our flavor in here. I'm going to do a little bit more. So about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more, and into about 2 cups of our pasta water. It's going to flavor up everything, give it a nice beefy, delicious flavor. And that hot pasta water will help kind of soak it up, dissolve it. Okay, let's flip these guys over. Oh, it looks so delicious. And I know it's one of those things where kids have started school, so I'm like, you know what? Fall's here. It may be triple-digit weather outside, but it's fall in my heart. Although now I'm always sitting there and I'm like, why do we start school back so early? We should really start in September when it's not 100 degrees outside. It hasn't been 100 degrees all summer. Kids go back to school, it's 100 degrees. There we go. Lovely. Get that, let that saute right there, and then we'll take out these in just a second. Let's see, we can start heading over to our oven because we are going to take our lid off of our, okay, cameraman, head over. He is eating the beef out of there. He's not paying attention to anybody. He was stuffing his little face. I think he was really enjoying it because it's a very simple one. Okay, we did 20 minutes at 500 with the lid on. And we're going to see this amazing new scoring that I did today. I added an additional line, and it doesn't look, it actually really fat one in the middle. E for effort. I try to do something different, and back in here. Let it split. Hopefully bust open. Now I think I gave too many expansions, and it's not going to pop. And temperature down to 450, and timer for 20 minutes. And hopefully when this comes out of the oven, dinner will be ready as well. Our meat, our second round of meat, if there's anything left, I'm not sure how much the cameraman got for the first round, but let's remove them from, seriously. We're going to grab these next kind of coating. We're going to pop this in here. We'll let these kind of sit on there, and then we will start cooking our onions and our mushrooms and our garlic. I'm gonna have to keep this very far away. I remember how much you ate, so you get less at dinner. And then when everyone says, where'd all the beef go? Where's the beef? I know where it is. Cameraman's belly. I said, I'm pretty sure I paid the cheese tax today. I don't need to pay the beef tax.
Everything is bad.
As we kids call it, the papa tax. Anytime, oh, you gotta pay the papa tax. Oh, do I have to? There we go. Okay, so you see we have these delicious drippings in here. That is going to make everything taste even better. I'm gonna turn this down really low. We're gonna get our onion in there, and then we'll add some temperature back onto it. But while it's waiting for me to give these a nice dice, we're going to keep it low so it doesn't burn any of our delicious meat drippings. And again, that's going to add so much flavor also to the beef stroganoff, including the lovely beef stock in there, or the beef bouillon. There we go. We'll just do a quick little dice up on here. Then I'm going to dice up some garlic, and then we'll get our mushrooms sliced and ready to go into our pasta dish. And then it'll be time to make the glorious sauce. Now, one thing that's nice about cooking the onions and the meat drippings, they instantly look like they're caramelized. They get a beautiful golden color to it. But you want to make sure that you cook them until they are no longer opaque. So you mix them around, and they already kind of turn that. But that doesn't mean that they've caramelized. That just means you have those nice, delicious meat drippings on them. There we go. Pull all of that towards the middle. And then it smells yummy. Just the addition of onions can make such a very aromatic smell to it. Okay, got these. I'm going to turn this down to about a 4 because metal pans conduct heat really high and a lot faster than a nonstick pan. And if I leave it at a high, like I had it on a 7 from when I was searing the meat off, if I leave it on that, then it's going to burn my onions. So if you do have like both pans and you're switching between them, just know that any pan that has a nonstick coating on it is going to conduct heat a little bit slower and not quite as high because it's essentially another layer of heat that needs to go through it. And the heat that needs to go through it. So just beware. But this is what I always call my pasta pan. It's also my fried rice pan. But because I can fit everything for our family in it, which is nice. Although I was over at my parents' house today, kind of like cleaning and helping them out, and I was like going through. They have like a little storage closet downstairs that has a bunch of cooking gear, and it has all of my mom's like jumbo pots, like her jumbo Le Creuset and her jumbo stock pot. It's for when at the one time of year when the house goes into chaos, when all my siblings and arrive, and there's like 40 to 50 people staying there. And so it was just funny, like walking by it. I was like, all of these massive size dishes for like one time a year, because now, not even that my parents cook, because I cook all of their meals, but it's just fun to have that for, that one time of year, but it all gets used. And sometimes it ends up over here. Okay, we're going to mince this up, and then we are going to add it in just a second. Oh, I feel like I have a sneeze coming on. We'll see. I was always told, I had this like friend in college, and she said, if you feel like you have a sneeze coming on, say cow. And for some reason, it's supposed to stop the sneeze, whether it works or not. But it tends to, I guess, it's so bizarre to say something like that. Maybe you should stop thinking about your nose. Okay. We've almost got these nice and a good kind of things. They're still a little bit opaque, and by what I mean with opaque is they're going to look whiter as they get translucent. That means they're less pungent. They have more of that caramelization. They get a little bit clearer, a little bit looking like they're see-through. And so that's kind of what we're going. You don't want to drop the garlic in until they've lost kind of that opaqueness for them. Do I need to? I'm just gonna reroute these a little bit closer, a little bit farther from the cameraman. Want him to enjoy himself, but he needs to wait for dinner like everybody else. It's something like my stepdad always does when I'm cooking dinner, and he's like comes in and he's like taking these. I'm like, just wait, we're about to eat, like 5 minutes. And he's like going through, helping him, like, wait and eat it how it's supposed to be served up. Although my husband's eating it how his is going to be served up. Okay, let's get these mushrooms sliced and adding in here. I always buy my mushrooms whole. That way I can, they last longer. My fridge, especially since I don't really ever meal plan. I really should, but I don't. I just kind of buy things that are on sale, and then I cook how I feel throughout the week. And that's way I have produce and everything that kind of lasts. Honestly, towards the end of the week when it's close to grocery time, I have to be like, oh, I have to use this, this, and this. It's going to go bad if I don't. So then I know what I'm making. Beginning of the week, I never know what I'm making because too many options. Here we go. And we need a good amount. This is about 1 pound and I should say a pound. This is about 1.5 mushroom containers, so 12 ounces, because a mushroom container has about 8 ounces in it. And they're little baby bellas, although some of these baby bellas are like teenagers. Okay, let's take a look at our onions. Now they're starting to definitely get more translucent. And again, don't worry about your delicious little meat like in here. Those will all come up when we deglaze. They're caramelizing down there, not burning. And I feel like that's one of those, people, they're like, oh no, I'm ruining. And I was like, it's not. That's meat drippings. That meat is those spices, the onion powder, it's caramelizing on there. My heat is low, so it's not going to burn anytime soon. Let's add in our garlic. We'll let that get a good minute or so to saute on its own, so that it has, again, just these nice little rich notes from it. And even when you add in new like veggies, they add a little bit of moisture and you're slowly picking up some of those little meat drippings off the bottom of your pan. Oh, it smells delicious. I'm going to rinse my hands, get a little bit of that garlic off. Okay. Now we're going to add in our mushrooms here because they've had about a minute or so. And we'll let these kind of saute. And another reason why I also buy my mushrooms whole, not only is it that they last longer, but I can cut them a little bit thinner, which means they kind of spread out more in my dish. So instead of getting a big mushroom, you get like 3 out of that same kind of size because they're nice and thin. And you just feel like you're getting a little bit more. And the funny thing is I have gotten all of my boys, minus, the cameraman, love mushrooms. They all really love them. So to me, that is a win in life because mushrooms are delicious. Okay, I'm going to spread them out. I'm going to let them saute here on just a little bit of a higher heat. I'm going to add in, just for a little bit of a richness with our sauce, about a little pat of butter, not much, but it just is going to develop a little bit more flavor in here than just the olive oil. So about a teaspoon of butter. And then I'll mix that around. But I love butter with mushrooms. It just tastes so yummy. Kind of coat them up. Get a nice good saute on these. Beautiful. And then in a little bit, we are actually going to add in our spices. We're going to use Worcestershire and some Dijon mustard, about around 1/4 of a cup-ish, maybe a little bit less because we use some for our meat. And then about 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. Even if you don't like either one of these, the pungency of the Worcestershire cooks off, and then you really don't taste the mustard. I do not like mustard, but I like it in this dish. It adds that little flavor. And then we're going to use sour cream, and then garlic, salt. This one's empty. And black pepper. It is a very, very simple dish. And then I have 1 green onion. You could also use parsley to garnish it with, but I do not have any parsley because, again, all of the little roly-polies in my garden, they like the parsley, the cilantro, and the dill. And then I think there's some little critter who is enjoying my squash plants. I think they're slugs. So we're going to have to figure out how to deal with those guys. Yeah. Lovely. Although we have this nice little it's a summer squash, a gourd that's developed on there. And the boys love to go out and look at it every day. It gets a little bit bigger every single day. And it's really cool. It's one of those little 10-pronged ones. And I'm excited for it to get a little bit bigger so we can pick it. Okay, these mushrooms are starting to look pretty darn good. Let's start in here. We're going to start with the Worcestershire. The Worcestershire first, because that direct heat cooks off some of that more pungent flavor of it. And I'm just going to really give a really generous drizzle all around. Again, about, need between 2 and 4 tablespoons. And that's, again, for a really big batch. For like the normal size, 1 to 2 tablespoons. Do you see how it's already starting to deglaze the bottom of our pan as I run my spatula or my tongs across that? That's just lifting up those meat drippings, which are incorporating them into our base of our sauce here. Now that we have that in there, it smells wonderful. We're going to add in about 2 teaspoons of mustard, which isn't actually that much. So that's 1, 2. And you're going to mix it in here. If you really love mustard, you probably go more, but again, mustard's not my favorite, but in this dish, I like it. And now we're going to add in our, the Worcestershire sauce is getting to my eyes there as it steams off. We're going to add in our beef bouillon that's in our pasta water. We're going to add it in slowly. Don't just drown like everything in at one time. You know, you don't want to flood it. Mix it in slowly, and you see how it's just creating this really rich brown sauce type gravy. Gorgeous. And then we'll add in our sour cream for it. And then sometimes, depending on it, I might add in a little bit of cream to add some richness, but it really just depends. It really depends on how much sour cream I have. If I have enough sour cream, which I do today, then I typically don't, but if I need to substitute and add a little cream will do just fine. And again, just take your spatula, slowly deglazing everything off the bottom of your pan to really bring these flavors in. Gorgeous. And beautiful. I'm going to give it a quick taste here before we add our sour cream, just to see where my pepper and saltiness. I'm going to probably add some pepper in there. Very good, but a little bit of pepper. I don't need to add any salt because, again, that beef stock or the beef bouillon has salt in it, so that kind of covers that. But a little bit of pepper.
What kind of beef bouillon do you use?
So I have like the better than bouillon ones that are, they're like a paste, and I really, really love them because you can decide how much liquid you add, and you can add more flavor versus just buying a box of like beef broth. So that's what I kind of love, because I like to use a little bit more to add a little bit more of that flavor, but then I don't have to use as much salt. Okay, let's add in our sour cream. I'm going to need about 2 cups, which is essentially this little container of it. But I add it in slowly. We'll mix it.
Is this recipe in your cookbook?
This is going to be in cookbook number 2. I already told my husband, I said, this is going to be in cookbook number 2, because it's one of those classics that are just really, really delicious that I love. Now, if you like your beef bouillon to be like really, really thick, you can add in some flour in here to incorporate it, which will thicken it up some more on there. I like it to be more like a gravy consistency. I'm going to add it little by little and let it simmer. But yes, you could definitely add in like a little bit of flour here. But we're going to just add it slowly, because once we get in our thing, we'll kind of give it a good stir. Oops, as I squeezed too hard with my, I almost got the cameraman. And then just whisk it up. It is easier to whisk it with and help get that sour cream nice and smooth than to use a spatula or a spoon. But you see, when we add that in, this creates a nice thick sauce. But if you want it really thick, add in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of flour into the sour cream, stir it up, then add it in here. And then we'll get our meat in just a second. But we want to let this simmer for a little bit, bring those flavors in. And then we'll add in our meat and then our noodles, because I put everything together so it can be all served out of one dish. Beautiful. And then I'm going to taste it, see if I need to add anything else, because the sour cream will make all the spices a little bit more mild. So you definitely need to just check to make sure it's salty enough and has enough pepper on there. Because again, this is kind of a simple seasoned dish, but so good.
So it's okay when you take a taste.
It is okay when I take a taste. I'm the chef. is my duty to take a taste. That is the power of being the chef. That is one thing I always said growing up. I started cooking family dinners when I was 13 and I loved it. It started out as one night a week. It was one night a week because it was just us three little ones at home, and I was the youngest of the 10. And like my sister would cook one, my brother would cook one, and I would cook one. And slowly turned into me cooking 5 nights a week because it paid. It was the best chore in the house. It paid really well, and I got to pick what we were having for dinner every night. And at the time, my siblings and I didn't always agree on the same things. And I was really happy to choose it. I loved it. Let's add in, make sure you add it in with all of those juicy pieces, like the beef juices that are in there, because it will just make it so delicious. Top that in there. And then we're going to add in our noodles. And then we'll top everything with our green onions. And then our sourdough bread should be just about ready to come out. But it's so yummy. Here is my crazy mixture of Parpendel and the corkscrew. Don't worry if it's stuck together. As soon as we get it into the sauce, it's going to start breaking apart. So don't coat it in butter because you want the noodles to actually soak up the sauce. And if you coat your noodles in butter or oil, then the sauce will just glide off of them. You want the noodles to soak up that flavor because it's just going to make it taste better. Beautiful. And then just nice little twirl. If I were making homemade noodles, I would either make homemade Parpendel or the big fat egg noodles, like a wide cut, because it works really well. But you could also use egg noodles regular. I am just using some random bags of pasta that I had left over in my pantry. Could have been alphabet or dinosaurs, so. Although they're too small of noodles, you want a little bit more hearty. And if you're going to really throw back, it's kind of like Hamburger Helper because those use macaroni noodles. So it's like a very bougie Hamburger Helper, you know. Let's get our green onions tossed on there. And we have about 5 seconds before our oven goes off for our sourdough. So we can go grab that out and then we'll be about ready to serve up dinner. This is a really quick meal that you can make that is delicious. I probably could have made it even faster, but I wanted to time everything to go with my sourdough bread because that is kind of the grain. I would say the grain. We have pasta, but you got to have bread. Everyone loves bread. And we've got our beautiful, not the best scoring on there. See, I try to do something different and it's beautiful. It's just not my beautiful that I like. See, I should just keep it with my regular score. See, I gave too many expansions and then it didn't pop like I like it. So let's get this guy out, but he's going to be delicious nonetheless. So it's our classic sourdough loaf. We're taking our parchment paper off. I do a blonde bake. I don't like to bake it too dark because then it cooks too much on the bottom. And then we have my attempt at a slightly different scoring pattern, and that's how it goes. Normally, I'll do one expansion in design, which means you kind of pop. I did 2 expansions, and then my middle one acted like an expansion. And so it actually kind of looks like a centipede and not a wheat leaf. So I'm going to tell Teddy it's a centipede, and he will be very, very excited for that. That's what I did. So you just got to go with it. Okay, let's get ready to serve up dinner here. Now, I'm not going to cut into my sourdough loaf yet because it needs to cool for about 10 minutes, which will be perfect because by the time we have our table set with the kiddos, they'll have it. We will be serving it with our strawberry rhubarb jam because I'm very, very excited about it. Poured it in here. Beautiful. Let me grab a spoon so you guys can see how it thickened up really, really nicely. We prepped this up earlier today and oh, it's so good. I told you Teddy was doing that, but look how thick that jam is. So, so delicious. So that will go with our bread tonight, and let's serve up dinner. Simple, easy, but full of all of the delicious comfort. Now I'm just going to have to see how I actually pick this out of our, like, You know what? I think we might need to use a mixture. The different noodle types might make this a little challenging on there, but it is what it is. Okay, let's do this. For dinner tonight, we have our beef stroganoff with a mixture of pappardelle and corkscrew noodles. We use flank steak, and then we have mushrooms, um, onions, garlic, and a lovely sauce made with sour cream, Worcestershire sauce, Dijon mustard, and beef bouillon. We'll sprinkle some more green onions over the top to add a little pop of flavor. And then we will serve it with a slice of our homemade sourdough bread. This is my traditional loaf, the big loaf. And we'll serve it up with some strawberry rhubarb jam that is finally chilled and ready to have. We made that earlier today on luncheon. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do have our website, which as there's links for it in our page, and on there we have our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets, like my Dutch oven. I've got my 6-quart saute pan, my knives, cutting boards, all the different things. We also have a link to our cookbook, which is also available on Amazon. Learn to Cook with Elsie Jensen. In here, I do have a sourdough tutorial, how to make sourdough, and my big loaf recipe in there, as well as 110 other recipes. We've already decided that this my beef stroganoff is going to be in cookbook number 2 because it's one of our family favorites. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.